Man, this morning I have the honor and pleasure to sit down and speak to a man who's beyond just a rapper, beyond just an MC, beyond just a professor, beyond just an activist, a proud father and husband. Man, this brother here really needs no introduction, but he's here. Texas royalty. Mr. Bun B is on this morning. How you feeling, brother? Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Hustle. How you feeling, man?
I'm good, Billy, man. Thank you for having me. Congratulations on this platform that you've been given. You know what I'm saying? It's a beautiful thing to see a brother like yourself here from Houston representing the city all over the country, even though they
Man.
don't want to play you in Houston yet. So we need to change that.
Man, it's all good, man. Brother, thank you for taking time out to come on, man. You're no stranger to being an activist. You're no stranger to being a philanthropist. Can you help us understand what the climate is like in the city of Houston right now, and from what you've seen, and what are you witnessing?
Houston, just to be honest, because I've been in Minneapolis, you know what I'm saying, and I've seen everything else that's going on around the country and around the world right now surrounding George Floyd's torture and murder. Houston is managing its energy, I think, a lot better than a lot of other cities. You know what I'm saying? Most cities in America are more divided than Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I think a lot of that has to do with the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Houston hasn't been the same since Harvey, and that's in both a bad way and a good way, right? So we saw a lot of businesses close down. We saw a lot of people lose their homes, lose their property. Some people lost their lives, right? But Houston came together in that moment in a way that very few cities in America have been able to do. I think
Mm-hmm.
Boston kind of did it after the marathon explosion. Atlanta did it after the explosion in the park during the Olympics for them. It's just one of those things where when tragedy happens in the city rebounds united, right, and unified. And I think that's what happened in Houston after Harvey. I'm not going to sit there and act like we don't have racism in Houston, like we don't have people that don't like us in Houston. But
Right.
with Harvey was something that affected every class in society and every race, every color in the city. But we put a lot of bullshit aside, excuse my language,
Yeah.
in order to come together and save each other and save our city.
Right.
So seeing George Floyd die and knowing that George Floyd was one of ours, right, straight out of Third Ward, Texas, it was another reason for us to come together and unify, right? And everybody doesn't like to see that unification, but we
Right.
don't really care. That's one thing about, people from Houston. They don't really care what other people think anyway. You know what I'm saying? They're going to do what they feel. And so that's what Houston's doing now, man. We're grieving together. We're mourning his death. We're frustrated. We're angry together. You know what I'm saying? But we're unified and united. And we all want to see an end to the type of brutality, racism, and police violence that took the life of George Floyd.
Right. Now, being that you've expressed those things, how have you seen a difference in the leadership from your perspective with the police department and the municipalities such as the mayor, and how these two are coming together in this certain factor, along with the community aspect?
Well, of course, the leaders in the community and the activists in the community activated immediately. You know what I'm saying? The normal people that you see in the streets are already in the streets. You know what I'm saying? They jumped out there very quick to be heard. But I feel like while we have had coordination and cooperation with the mayor's office, I've had a good relationship with Sylvester Turner for years now. From his days as state rep up until his mayoral election. I've had a good relationship with him, and
Right.
while he has been supportive of, like, for example, our rally and our protest that we held last Tuesday, as well as the chief of police, Art Aceveda, who I also have a good working relationship as well. Still a lot of things that we need to be concerned about as far as the city of Houston. We're coming up on the city council budget review, and right now there's $1 billion allocated for the police department in Houston. And we feel like some of that money could be used for other things in the city, community outreach, after school programs, taking care of our homeless condition in the city, mental health programs for people in the inner cities that are dealing with the trauma of living in the inner cities. With our police department, we need a little bit more transparency in some of the police officer related shootings and killings that we've had in our city. So while I appreciate their cooperation and their coordination with helping us with some of the things that we do, that still doesn't mean that we don't need to hold them accountable, right?
Right.
The mayor's an elected official. And when we give you our vote, we give you power. And
Right.
so, you don't get to yield that power any way you choose, right? You have to answer the call of the people that voted you in. And so there are things that we need the mayor to be accountable for in relation to this budget that the city council is about to approve, and the level of accountability that we deserve. There's different policy reform.
Right.
Need that the mayor can enact with an executive order, right? So everything doesn't have to go to state legislation in order to be passed. It doesn't have to go to city council in order for it to be passed. The mayor can push a button and make some of these things happen.
And
so
these things apply nationwide, not just to the city of Houston, because if you look at that as a pattern for how you're able to do that, you can actually see how that can actually make a transformation process happen in cities around the country. And I'm starting to see some of that now about some of the defunding of certain police departments and reallocating those funds to certain programs. And so
right.
I think we're starting to turn the corner and see a light at the end of the tunnel. And brother, I know it's hard with seeing that type of trauma, that murder, having our people see that. And what are you seeing for the healing process, and what word can you give to the people nationwide to kind of help us take the next step for activism for what we need to do as Black people?
Well, the first thing we need to do collectively is agree that these instances shouldn't be happening, right? I think we can all pretty much agree that police brutality is a no-no. Being abused and being murdered by the police is not going to work, right? So once we agree on that, then we have to agree on the level of reform that we want. Texas Representative Sheila Jackson Lee is introducing a bill named after George Floyd that's about police reform, right? So that deals with accreditation. How do police become police officers? How are they trained in the ways of police officer? What are they teaching them as far as engagement with the police? But even besides that, there's things that the police academy can't fix. There's things that engagement, certification and accreditation can't fix, right? Mm-hmm. And that's behavior. James Byrd, who was dragged to death in Texas, has a daughter that works on the police force here in Houston, right? She became a police officer after what happened to her father. And she made a good point the other day during this virtual panel that I did, this virtual town hall. And she said, you can teach the police the right thing to do all the time. You can, you give them the right tutelage and tell them everything, but they got to implement it.
Right.
So we can change the way the police officers are trained. We can change the way that we allow them to engage with the public, right? Mm-hmm. The way that these things escalate in terms of their interactions with the citizens of the city, but they got to implement that. If you look at George Floyd's murder, 2 of the police officers are rookies. They're brand new police. One of them had only been on the force for 4 days, right?
Wow.
And through his lawyer, his lawyer said that in the midst of the interaction and the killing of George Floyd, he tried to ask Officer Chauvin, with the police officer that had his knee on the neck, was like, shouldn't we be turning him over? Like, I don't know if we should be doing this. And as a senior officer on the scene, they have to kind of follow his lead, so to speak, right? And so he didn't tell them that, he basically was like, no, we good, don't worry about it, And so those are the kind of things that we have to worry about, right? Like when these people leave the academy and go out into the police force as rookies, they are put under the tutelage of a senior officer who explains them how to proceed in the city, how to move in certain communities, how to engage with the people, and what level of escalation they should have in certain situations. In this particular situation, their senior officer let them down, right? Now, they should have known at some point that this wasn't the right thing to do and present some level of action for themselves, right? They wouldn't be in jail right now if they had taken action on the scene.
Right.
They probably would be hailed as a hero in this country as opposed
if they were able to step up. I mean, it's all about proper training and people having the proper information and knowing exactly how to deal with certain situations. It's great that you mentioned that about James Byrd's daughter, about her joining the force. I think that's a part of the solution is more people of color, Black people joining the force without the stigmatism of it being, oh, you a snitch. Really, if we were able to police our own, we know how to deal with these interactions in a better condition. And I'm not saying that Black officers don't abuse power, but the likelihood of there being a level of misunderstanding or perceived fear, I think could definitely dissipate with well-trained Black officers on the scene, man. So that's a great.
Absolutely. That would help with a lot of the initial interaction that people have with the police, right? Especially when there's a high energy situation, emotions are high. And it could just be an argument from, maybe a domino game or a card game or
Right.
People in the barbershop arguing who's the best rapper or something like that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? If you have a better frame of reference and a better perspective on the community that you're policing, you have a better way of knowing how to deal with these kind of things, how to stall brothers out in the
Right.
midst of some of this stuff, right? Now, every neighborhood in America, white, black, brown, it doesn't really matter. They're all going to have a criminal element that lives within that society, within that community. And so the police on that level are definitely needed, right? But exactly the extent to which we allow them to escalate these situations and the way that they're allowed to move on us has to be definitely questioned. Like we have to find a different way of allowing police to police us in our community. And when they do it wrong, we have to take the power to charge them, arrest them, and prosecute them out of the police hands. So I've been asking that, there are many independent review boards that exist in cities around America, but
Yes,
they
sir.
don't really have subpoena power.
Okay.
Right. And so subpoena power would allow them in an instance like this
to actually call those people in and hold them accountable.
Absolutely. Because without evidence, you can't really charge somebody. Right. And a lot of times the city withholds that evidence from the public.
Mm-hmm.
And so the independent review board that would have that subpoena power would be able to look at that evidence, be able to draw a conclusion, let the people know earlier, like, look, we saw the footage, something wrong was done here. This officer was not justified in the level of escalate, in the way this situation escalated. We think he committed a crime. We believe we need to charge him with a crime and have him arrested immediately, right? So we don't have to wait for City Hall to make that call for us. We need to be able to have a say in what happens when the police hurt us or kill us. You know what I'm saying? We need to have somebody there that's not an elected official, that's not beholden to the police force or the police union, have some say in those matters.
Right. Now, brother Bun, I got to ask you, as a fan and as an admirer of your work, and I'm sure people around the world are listening, when they hear you speak about these things so passionately, we already know that you guys were on the forefront in the beginning with UGK. We're talking about the police and police brutality and crooked cops, and the policemen are your friends. Those songs, right. What is that giving you, if anything, for any motivation to what we can look forward to come next from you? Be it either a guest lecture series, be it a performance. What can we expect from Bun B to see in the creative process spawning from these events?
Well, while songs are important, right? And that's why we made I made songs, of course, with the late great Pimp C during UGK. I made a song a couple of years ago called Blood on the Dash, which talked about the interaction between a police officer and a black man in the hood, and the uncertainty that both of them have in that situation, right? And so there's that fear that police officers have when they pull over people of color, not really knowing what to expect in the interaction. There's the fear that black people have when they're pulled over by the police, not really sure what's going to happen. Are they going to be killed? So I made songs about that. But I feel like right now I can tell people some things, but I think it's better to show them. So that's why I've been as active as I have. That's why I've been talking about this stuff as much as possible. That's why I want people to see me in the streets, marching, protesting, communicating with the people. That's why I went to Minneapolis, to go out, talk to the people, hear them out as an OG, as an elder in my community, you know what I'm saying? So we like to tell the young people a lot of stuff, man, but sometimes we have to show them, but we also have to listen. The young people are trying to tell us what's going on a lot of times, and we feel like because we're older and we've seen things that we know everything, and nothing could be further from the truth. There's a lot to be learned about the young people, right? Because even though some of what they're going through, we're going through, it's not the same on every level. Like some of these things are changing in the way things are happening in the streets. And so we need to be able to go into our communities if you have that relationship. Because I realize everybody ain't good in the hood like that, right? But if you are, you need to be in your community. You need to be in the streets. You need to be in the projects, in the hood, talking to people about what they're dealing with right now and asking them, like, what do y'all think would be better? And they're going to pretty much feel the same way that you feel, but they may even be more specific to be like, well, for one, we need to get officer so-and-so away from here. Because
and they know exactly who it is. Yeah. And they can pinpoint and kind of give you a better direction about where to focus your energy at.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We got to listen to the young people. We can't just talk at them. We got to talk to them, and we have to allow them to talk to us too.
Well, man, I appreciate you talking to us today, brother. That's what it's all about. You taking your time out your schedule, man. I'm so thankful for you giving us that, man. I know we have a busy schedule the rest of the day today with the memorial service and the funeral. So, brother, thank you for all your hard work and support, and thank you for coming on the show with us today. We got more Morning Hustle coming your way. Thanks again to brother Bun B. Let's give it up for him one more time. Bun B, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Billy, man. I appreciate you, using this platform for this particular matter. It'd be very easy to play music and tell jokes right now. Don't get me wrong. We need humor, right? In moments like this, we need levity, but we gotta concentrate it on what's really real right now. Because we only got, we don't have too many shots at this, right? We got to hit this thing on the head right off.
You got to hit it from all fronts, man. And that's why I'm trying to do what I can. And what we're trying to do here with the show, man, is definitely keep the people informed and definitely get the right information out. And you did that today, man. Thank you.
You're doing a great job, Billy, man. Keep up the good work.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We are the Morning Hustle.